All right. So today we're going to talk about a super simple concept conceptually, but to put into practice is actually maybe a little harder or a little harder for most people than it should be. And that's going to be what allows you to be consistent within your training. And it sounds super cliche, but it's as true as the sky is blue. And that's going to be consistency, right? So consistency is the number one cardinal rule of being successful within a training program. You know, that's pretty obvious to most people. If you work out really hard for 2 weeks and then hurt yourself or fall off the wagon, probably not going to get many results. However, if you stick to a consistent plan over the course of weeks, months, years, then you're going to see results. Now, putting it into practice can actually be kind of difficult. And I think people have a misconception as to what being consistent actually means. And so let's not talk about somebody that works out or trains as their sport or to make a living. So think bodybuilders, power lifters, Olympic weightlifters, anything of that nature is going to be a little bit different. But when it comes to general population or even athletes that the training isn't their sport, right? So whether you play hockey, you play football, whatever it is, if you're an athlete and you use training to supplement your sport, or if you're just a general population person that enjoys training and wants to use it to enhance your lifestyle, a lot of people have the misconception that to be consistent means to show up every day and give 110%. And that's where you can really start to fall into some issues with, overreaching, overtraining, whether you want to consider it like under recovering. And a very simple approach that you can use to kind of clean that up is there's a very common method with a lot of coaches, especially in the world of sports performance. And the idea is that you keep your high days high and you keep your low days low, and you alternate those days. And so a high day meaning a very voluminous or an intense training session, right? On those days, you want to make sure that you really are hitting it. You're giving it 110%. Whereas the following day, on your light day, your daily patterns or your training, if there is any at all, should look a little different, whether it's a nice long hike, a steady state aerobic session, a yoga session, just a general mobility session. Whatever that is, there should be a vast contrast between the days that you're really pushing at 110% and then the days in which you're supposed to be recovering or taking it a little easier. And I think that's where most people fall into a trap of all of their training throughout the course of a training week looks very similar. So they're never pushing like overly hard, but they're also never really recovering at a very, very low level, right? When I say low level, I mean they're not taking the time away from their training to allow their body to adapt positively to the stimulus that they provided the day before. And so that is like, it's not a one size fits all, but I would say it is a very, it's a model that's used quite often and it tends to work. Again, it also goes to show that whether you're an athlete training for a sport or you're a general population person training to enhance your life, the model in which that you're going to use to, go about your training looks very, very similar. And so a misconception with consistency is that consistency equals 110% effort every time you step into the gym. Whereas what consistency is actually going to look like over the course of months and years is knowing when to go hard, knowing when to hold back. As a coach, you see this a lot of times with athletes or general population people. Everybody wants to push it. People want to push hard. People want to see those results. And when they're motivated to see those results, they're all in. And so your job as a coach, or your job to understand this as the trainee, is that you need to know when to hold yourself back, because that's going to allow you to take time to recover, adapt, get stronger, and then come back the next session, the next week, ready for action. And so when you're thinking about being consistent in the gym, don't set this false representation of needing to go 110% all the time. Know when to go hard, know when to hold back. And the last point I'll make with this is going to be, whether you train 3 days a week, 4 days a week, or 5 days a week, that's not really going to push the envelope into your results over a long-term plan. Like, think of it like a long-term investment strategy, right? The things that are really going to push the envelope is, yes, consistent training where you have an approach that makes sense and it's logical and it's fitting the needs or it's fitting the goals that you have. But you need to make sure that, it's lining up with other lifestyle factors like sleep, nutrition, stress management, having good relationships within your life. All of these other things are going to cultivate a healthy lifestyle, and they're going to help cultivate, if not be the main driver in cultivating success within your training program. So consistency is key, but don't overdo it.